Are you afraid of failing as a writer? Guess what? You will. It's part of what it's all about. So don't be afraid of failing. Today I'm going to show you all the failures that I had when I first started writing 10 years ago. Oh my gosh, 10 years ago. It's crazy. So 10 years ago, all the failures. And do I still have failures? Yes, I'm working through some right now, and I will share that at the very end. Things I just went, oh, these were fails. I need to work on these. Hello, I'm Autumn Bardell. Thank you so much for joining me today. Here you'll find writing tips, author tools, and hopefully even a little bit of inspiration. Today we're going to talk about failure and all of my failures. So a super personal video. And the reason I did this was because I think it was about 2 weeks ago I had a video, and I'll drop that in the description box below, the link to that, about, are you afraid of failure? And I listed some of the things, but one of those things I discussed was failure, and are you what will you fail at, and do you need to move on? So anyway, I thought I'm just going to share all of my failures, because maybe if you see what my failures are, then you won't feel so bad about yours, or you'll feel really good about yourself, because you'll be like, I didn't make that mistake, Autumn. What were you thinking? But yeah, 10 years ago, I had some failures. So maybe you're smarter than me, and you learn from your failures. At least that's the plan. So here we go. I'm just going to give you a list of my failures. My first book, I failed at realizing that I could put my urban fantasy into 10 different categories. Amazon KDP only gives you, I think, 2 or 3. So I failed at realizing that until I read it on some kind of random Facebook page. Big failure. I failed at keywords. I didn't know what I was doing or how to write them. I didn't spend a lot of time trying to figure out what to do either. I just thought that was like an extra. I didn't understand the importance of keywords. I do now. I failed at writing a great query letter the first time, and the second and third. The first one had a typo. The horror! I failed at getting an agent multiple times. I think I sent queries to at least 100 agents at the time, and I sent out my urban fantasy, which is fun. It's like fun urban fantasy. They all wanted dark urban fantasy, and I didn't write that. I failed to understand the importance of comps. That's comparable titles and covers. Which reminds me, what I'm going to be doing next is totally redoing my Merkaba series covers. That's what I'm working on too. See, there's always something you need to work on. I failed to realize that too in the beginning. I thought once I did it, it was a done deal. And it's not. This is a more recent failure. When I started the Autumn Bardell pen name about 4 years ago, I failed to start a LinkedIn for it. I started maybe this summer. So yeah, that was a big fail. I failed to have an author end game in the beginning. I just thought, hey, I'll write a book. Hey, I'll write another book. I really didn't have an end game. And I'll link that video in the description box too. It's, the importance of having an end game. Can it change? Yeah, of course it can. I failed at getting an agent for the first 3 of my Merkaba books, the first 3 books that I wrote. When I did get an agent for one of my historical fiction, I failed to get a publishing contract for one, and then the other, and then she didn't want the third. I failed to read that there is a read aloud function on your Word document. And I saw it there for a while. I don't know what that is. And you're busy and you're doing a million things. And so then once again, I was reading something like, there's a what? And so, man, did that save me a lot, because I put that read aloud function on, and it helps me hear all of my mistakes. Is it tedious? Oh yeah. is tedious. And I can only do it for about an hour, 2 hours tops before my brain just goes, yeah. In the beginning, I failed to get a professional headshot or make it look professional. I just used whatever. But you know, now with phones, and these phones are amazing, you can get a great professional headshot. Lots of light on your face and a nice background that's white or black. Once again, you don't want to look like a floating head, so don't wear a black top with a black background or floating head time. I failed to get that. I failed to do that. I have since gone through a couple different headshots. It really helps that my daughter is a professional photographer. I failed to get my agent to keep me on when she jumped agencies, and she actually wanted me to rewrite The Impaler's Wife, take out all of the Vlad parts, which is about 1/3 of the book. And I said, no. I didn't want it to be historical romance. I wanted it to be historical fiction. And you know what? I'm glad I did. I think I failed to meet as many people as I could when I went to conferences. In the beginning, I was very shy. I really just didn't know what to do or what to say, and so I failed to meet as many as I think as I could. So next conference I go to, I'm gonna meet as many as I can. I failed to do things as fast as I'd like to do them. It seems to me that everything takes me twice as long to do as I thought it was going to do. Social media posting, whatever, it just seems to take longer. With my first book, I failed to know when I was really done. I had about 1 million first drafts. First draft, the real first draft, the real first draft, the this is it first draft. I also failed to mark them appropriately. I failed to know when I was really done my book. When I thought I was done, a friend who was in the business told me, oh, this is a really great amateur first draft. It was my 10th draft. So I failed to know when I really was done. I failed at writing a really good description for my book, something that teased and enticed the reader. I failed at writing a one-line hook, and I failed at explaining to people in one line what the book was about. I think you learn a whole lot with the first couple books, like so much. I failed at the first cover for a whole bunch of different reasons. And actually that whole series is going to go through a cover revamp, so I'm excited to do that. I failed at formatting. When I started about 10 years ago, there weren't professional formatters, or at least I didn't know about them. And I had my son do it, and he did an awesome job, thank God. But then after that, I didn't want to keep bugging him. You know, he had a job. So once I found a formatter, it was like, oh, it was golden. I failed at organizing my research, and I'm going to link another video in the description box to that as well, because I should have known, and because that's what I teach, but there was so much research and I didn't organize it correctly. So the second book, I learned really fast how to organize it, both in the computer and actually in the Word document, the actual manuscript itself. I failed at dating my revisions. I do that now. I failed at making all the folders that I needed for KDP or the formatting. The whole thing was just all messed up, and I was like, oh, what is the latest copy? And oh, I don't know. And it caused a lot of stress, so much stress. So now I take the time I need to organize immediately. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that it can get real crazy real fast once you're on book 2, 3, and on upwards. You need to be and get and stay organized. I failed to keep lists of relevant data like book bloggers and bookstagrammers, and what advertising worked and what advertising didn't work, links, author bios, teasers. I didn't have any of that organized. Now I do. A total fail that I had with my first book was that I gave it away for free, and I didn't have a second book. What was I thinking? All I read was give your work away, give your work away. Yeah, that only works if they have a book 2 and 3 and 4 to follow up on. If it's your only book, do not give it away. There's nothing else for them to buy. The last fail I want to discuss is my failure with my thumbnails. I realized my thumbnails were kind of meh. And so now I'm going back and I'm redoing thumbnails. I try to do about 2 or 3 a day, and hopefully they're a little bit better, because evidently thumbnails are a big thing and I didn't really realize that. I mean, I knew they were a thing, but that I didn't really know how to make them great. I don't even know if I can make them great, but I'm trying to make them better. So better is always better, right? So that's a lot of fails. Sprinkled throughout those fails, I had some successes as well. I'm pretty proud of them. So what kept me going through all those failures? Well, I have stories. I love to write, and I have stories that need to get out. I took a big bite of the reality hamburger and I decided that I'm going to push through despite the failures. I'm going to keep pushing them through. I'm not going to let the failures win or let the failures define me. So yeah, I had a lot of failures, but I also had a lot of successes. Truth is, my work schedule, my life, it prevents me from doing everything with the writing and these videos that I'd like to do. But hey, I don't consider those things a failure. I just consider that life. Push through with your failures. Keep pushing and turn your failures into successes. I know it sounds corny, but if you stop at the failure, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Keep pushing and turn those failures into successes. Thanks for watching, and remember, writers, to dream, create, and embrace. Bye-bye.